Good morning, guys. Welcome to TalentBlazer, India's latest edtech platform that is there to help you at every stage of your career. I'm your teacher and mentor in this journey, and I am covering paper 2 commerce. The subject code for the same is 08. And I have already covered few units, and I'm starting with the new unit, Unit 10, that is income tax and corporate tax planning. You must have studied about this subject in your undergrad and postgrad as well. It is quite an interesting topic, and certainly there are few questions that are being asked from this topic in your examination, UGC NET examination, and certainly there has been an extension to fill up the examination form for UGC NET till 30th of May. So you can fill up the examination form till 30th of May, and I hope most of the viewers who are watching the video uh, some fill the examination form and give the exam this year, this in this session as well. So we are starting with unit 10, that is income tax and corporate tax planning. And in this class we'll discuss about the basic concept, what is tax, and what are the types of tax. And because you can definitely get a question on the basic concept as well. Given the pattern of examination, you won't be getting a full-fledged practical question because uh, that will require a lot amount of time, and the given the nature of the examination, you won't be getting a a full-fledged practical question. You will be asked easier practical question which you can solve in maximum time of 1 minute or 2 minutes, and the majority of questions are theoretical and based on concept. So if you are clear with the concept, then you are ready to go for tax, right? I know most of the students find this topic difficult given its practical nature, and there are so many rules that you have to sections and many things that you have to keep in the mind. But there is some slight relief for you all that you don't have to solve full-fledged practical questions, right? So what is tax? Tax is a compulsory duty, monetary obligation charged or imposed by upper authority like government in India, right? So in India, union government and state government both levy taxes. So both Indian union government and state government, they both have the power and authority to levy taxes. Article 246 of Constitution of India gives the respective authority to union and state government respectively for levying taxes. So there's the question right there for you. Which article number of Constitution of India gives the authority to union and state government for levying taxes? The answer for the same is Article 246, right? So the taxes are imposed on the following: first income, then wealth, then product, activity, and transactions. We'll discuss them one by one. So we're talking about that tax is a compulsory duty, monetary obligation that you have to pay, and these are charged by the government or the upper authorities. In our case, in our country's case, that is India, and majority of the country case that there is union government, right? So union government and state government in our constitution both have the power to levy taxes. Now, why taxes are levied by the government? What is the reason behind levying the taxes? Why can't we have tax-free nations? Because there are few tax-free nations. Taxes are the basic source of revenue of the government, right? So how will the government earn? Through taxes, because they have to perform transformational activities. They have to provide the basic necessities and features to every citizen of the country. So they need revenue, they need money for that, and taxes are one of the major sources. So the major and the basic source of revenue of the government. Revenue is raised for meeting the expenses of government. As I said, there are expenses that are being borne by the government, so they have to be being they need money to pay to their expenses, to look after their expenses. The government collect fund through different type of taxes, because there is no singular type of tax. There are multiple type of taxes because they need multiple sources of income. So they have different type of taxes. These funds are used to meeting different type of expenses like defense, education, healthcare, infrastructure facilities like road, dams, etc. So these are the reason why why there is taxation system in the country, right? Because government need that fund. These funds are used to meet different type of expenses like defense, because we as a nation need to protect our borders from the enemy states. So we need money, and that money, the government need money, so the government can get the money through taxes, so they can spend that money on preparing a good defense for the nation. And then we have to make sure that that education is being provided to every citizen of the country. Private sector are obviously there, but not everyone can afford private sector education in our country. So government is there to make sure that education as a basic need is not being left out to many citizens in our country, to the poor citizens, certainly, right? And then there is healthcare, then infrastructure facilities like road, dams, etc. So this is all about the tax. Now we have to majorly focus upon the Income Tax Act. So the Income Tax Act 1961, you have to remember which year. Income Tax Act 1961 has born has been brought into the force with 1st April 1962. So the Income Tax Act 1961 has been brought into force with 1st April 1962. It applies to whole of the India, including J&K. Right. So even back then, it used to be applied to whole of India. Right. Some of the acts does not, it does not used to be applied to J&K. Now majority of the acts are being applied to J&K, and income tax even back then was being applied to J&K. Sources and authority of taxes in India is given in the Constitution of India and in mentioned in the 7th schedule, right? So again, a question for you guys. So sources and authority of taxes in India is mentioned in the Constitution of India 7th schedule, right? I missed out on writing the schedule, so it's 7th schedule, and there are three lists mentioned. Uh, that one is union list, second is state list, third is concurrent list, where both union and state government charges tax. On income tax, union has the whole charge by the union, and then the corporation tax, whole of tax has been taken up by union, and the last custom duties, the whole of the tax amount has been taken up by the union. Whereas if we want to talk about the exclusivity of state, so first one is tax on agriculture income. Second is tolls. There are many toll plaza in your state, in your cities. So all that revenue that is earned through those toll plaza is being transferred to the state government. And the alcohol liquors. So when we are talking about alcohol liquors, so the taxation amount that is being earned is being transferred to the state government. And the last one, the concurrent list, where both union and state can charge the tax, that is GST, goods and service tax. So GST is being applied, like half of the GST is being given to the union, and the rest half is being given to the state government, right? So there are other example, other tax that also fall in this list, and other that do fall in the state list as well, but I have mentioned a few. The rest you have to you have to mention in the comment section, so that is your homework. So you have to mention which all tax comes under the union list, and which all the rest of the tax which comes under the state list, so you have to mention in the comment section below. So this is about the Income Tax Act, which has been brought into the force 1st April 1962. It applies to whole of India even back then. Now we are talking about the types of taxes. So there are broadly two types of taxes, but when we go deep dive in, there are multiple taxes. So if we have to talk about the broader classification, there are two type of taxes. First is direct tax, and second is indirect tax. Direct tax is the tax which is implied or imposed directly on the income or wealth or property of a person. Then it is called direct tax. Let's suppose if I own a property, then I will be the one who is charged for that property, owning that property. So property tax, right? When if I am earning some income, right? Even then I'm being charged some tax on it. That is called direct tax, because I am the one who is earning the income. I am the one who is paying the tax. There is no other person involved. There is no other intermediary involved. This is called direct tax. The one who is owning those things is paying the tax. So the tax is levied or imposed directly on the income or wealth or property of a person, it is called direct tax. For example, income tax and wealth tax. In this type of tax, the incidence of it is to be borne by the person himself on whom it is levied. So this is being levied on me. I have to make sure that I pay the taxes on time. I am paying the adequate amount of taxes. I am paying the right set of taxes. And if my income is coming under the tax bracket, under the categorization of which tax bracket I'm paying that amount of tax, that percentage of tax. So this is being borne by the person. This is being borne by the person on whom it is levied. So in this example, it is being levied on me. So I will be the one who will borne these taxes, right? So this is direct tax. So example is income tax and wealth tax. So there are two type of taxes. Now, while covering direct taxes, the next one is indirect tax. So you must be knowing that. Okay, I think most of the viewers who are watching this video must be knowing that there are two type of taxes. One is direct, and then there is indirect tax. If tax is levied on the price of good, product, or services, then it is called indirect tax. For example, GST, custom duty, etc. In case of indirect taxes, the person paying the tax passes on the incidence to another person. Right, let's suppose we talk about an example. Let's suppose we're talking about a manufacturer who, while manufacturing that product, pays some taxes to the government. Now, while he is manufacturing the product, he is bearing the cost at that time of the taxation. After you know supplying that product to the ultimate consumer, the consumer will bear that tax by paying the amount. Let's suppose the product price is 10,000 rupees. Product price is 10,000 rupees, and there is some tax of 18%. So 1800 I will be paying extra as a tax amount. That will be you know going to the manufacturer, and basically indirectly the taxes is being borne by me, right? So if the tax is levied on the price of a good, product, or services, then it is called an indirect taxes. We are not taxing someone's wealth, we are not taxing someone's salaries, we are talking about goods, product, or services. For example, GST tax, it's an indirect tax, as most of you must be aware about. Then, in case of indirect taxes, the person paying the taxes passes on the incidence to another person. Indirect tax is levied on the product or services, but the incidence of which is borne by consumer who ultimately consume the goods or avail the services. Now, as I said, the manufacturer, while manufacturing the product, after manufacturing the product, paid some taxes to the government. Now, when ultimate consumer buy the product, he needs to pay the tax amount as well. I give you an example where the product price is, the manufacturing cost is 10,000 rupees, and then there is some tax associated with it. While I'm buying, I have to make the full payment, 10,000 rupees plus 18% of GST, and then that is 11,800. So that's the whole amount. So that's the indirect tax, because I am the one, the ultimate consumer, who is taking up the tax amount, who is finally ultimately paying the tax. Right. Indirect tax is levied on the manufacturer or service provider. Now, as I said, indirect tax is being levied on the manufacturer who is manufacturing the product, or service provider who is providing the services, but is borne by consumer himself, because the consumer who will be consuming that service will be actually paying that amount. Right. So there are a few examples of direct taxes and indirect taxes. Direct taxes, first is income tax, second is capital gain tax, third is security transaction tax. Fourth is prerequisite tax, and last is corporate tax. Now, moving to the examples of indirect tax: sales tax, service tax, custom duty, and excise duty, and VAT. So, because now we have GST in place, most of the taxes has been replaced from indirect taxes, because there used to be different types of tax. Now we have GST in place, right? So direct tax and indirect tax, these are two broader classification of taxes. I hope everyone who is watching the video is clear with what is the difference between direct tax and indirect taxes, right?